why I'm easy. I'm easy like Sunday morning. That's why I'm easy.
Oh, yeah, you can't beat the sounds of those guys. That's right, the Commodores. Now, that's a group that knows what it's like to be number one. But what about the Vanderbilt Commodore football team? Well, that's a completely different story. In fact, I have a prop for this one, everybody. I'm going to show you in documentation just how many conference championships Vanderbilt has won since 1924. These are the number of championships that I have documented that they've won in the last 94 seasons. Here you go. Yeah, it's a damn blank piece of paper because they haven't won any since 1924. In fact, you got to go back to 1923. 95 years ago, the last time Vandy won a conference football championship of any kind. It's been almost a century. That's right. 1923 was the last. To show you how long that's been, the ballpoint pen and the automatic toaster weren't even invented yet. It's been that long for Vanderbilt football. There has been some success along the way, but not much. And 2 years ago, Derek Mason, the head coach of the Commodores, did get his team to a bowl game. But last year, they took a step back, finished 5-7. And normally, the defense in the last few years has been pretty good. But last year, they were anywhere from average to just not very good at all. This year, a lot of bodies to replace, especially on the defensive side. But we'll start my Vanderbilt preview for 2018 by talking about the offense. And we'll start with a positive. Kyle Shermer, a respectable quarterback. Matter of fact, an historic quarterback by Vanderbilt standards because he's fifth on their all-time passing list. And last season, threw for over 2,800 yards. Like I said, respectable. 26 touchdowns. Did have, though, 10 interceptions and only 58% completion percentage. But you return him for his final year. By the way, if Shermer throws for about 3,000 yards this season, he'll become the school's all-time leading passer. Currently, the leading passer for the Commodores, a guy you've heard of, Jay Cutler. Well, the running game, and this is going to be a huge question mark for the Commodores until they can address it. That's because they lost not only their leading rusher from last year in Ralph Webb, and not only was Webb their all-time leading rusher, but he had more than 1,000 yards rushing than the second all-time leading rusher. Yeah, Ralph Webb was that important to Vanderbilt's ground attack, and you have to replace him, and maybe some relief along the way from a former Nashville resident who played at Illinois but is now coming back to Nashville to finish his career out with the Commodores. That's Keyshawn Vaughn. So he'll play a lot. Looking at the receivers, they lose two guys that had at least 50 receptions in 2017, and T.J. Sherfield and C.J. Duncan. Two big losses. So now Kalijah Lipscomb has to become the number one guy. Lipscomb, 37 catches, 8 touchdowns in 2017. And Gerard Pinckney, he's only had 44 catches over the last 2 seasons, but the tight end this year, Pinckney, should get a lot more balls thrown to him. Offensive line does return everybody. They were good as far as pass protection, but the run blocking really lacked a lot to be desired, despite the presence of Ralph Webb. But Bruno Reagan looks like he's the best of the bunch now entering his senior year up front for Vandy. Plays the right guard position. He should get all SEC honors in some form this season. The Commodores really need to get that ground game going again. Ralph Webb was all they had, but it really wasn't enough. They only averaged 107 yards on the ground per game in 2017, which was 10th worst in college football. And there was a squad, too, that only averaged 25 points per game. Defensively, like I said, they had been solid in recent seasons. Last year, just 65th in the country in total D, giving up close to 395 yards per game. But a change on the defensive side for Derek Mason's squad as he hired Jason Tarver. He's been coaching in the NFL for the past 6 seasons, the former Stanford guy. It'll be a 3-4 defense that they'll go with, and it is a defense that has to improve the rush defense element of it, giving up almost 200 yards per game. And here's the real bad news for Tarver's defense. Only 4 full-time starters are back. They're going to be hurting in every layer on that defense. The line, the linebackers, and the secondary. Dare Odengbo does come back at the defensive end position. Again, I think the pass rush will be fine for Vanderbilt, but stopping the run in general is going to be a season-long issue in my opinion. The linebacker, Charles Wright, does come back. Had 9 sacks a year ago, but he needs a lot of help along the way. Not much experience at linebacker. The most experienced area, which isn't saying much considering you only have 4 starters back, will be the secondary. You do return Jojon Williams at 6'3". He's a nice presence at the corner. And the safety comes back too, and Ladarius Wiley, not entering his senior year, leading returning tackler for the Commodores with 88 stops. The schedule for the Commodores, well, it should start positive. They should be 2-0 out the gates with a couple of winnable home games. And even more good news for Vanderbilt on that schedule. They don't play Alabama this year, and that's a big break because last year the Crimson Tide rolled all over them 59-0. Instead, you play Arkansas, so that's a bit of a nice trade-off. And, of course, you play Ole Miss every year from the West Division. So you get the 2 worst teams from the West. Okay, but here's the bad news on the schedule. September 15th at Notre Dame. That game will probably be over within an hour of kickoff. October, how about that? Between the Hedges at Georgia. If that were a boxing match, they'd probably stop it in the first round. October 13th, Florida at home won't be easy, and neither will the game in Lexington against Kentucky. But November, opportunities for some wins at Missouri. Not impossible for Vanderbilt to maybe get an upset there. And the final 2 games, you get them in Nashville with Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt will try to make it 3 straight wins against interstate rival Tennessee. One other note about the Vanderbilt schedule, the bye week. You don't get it until November. That's a bad break as well. Vanderbilt will win a few games. However, I think most of those wins will be outside of conference play. Keep in mind that Derek Mason, in his 4 years at Vanderbilt, has only won 6 conference games out of 32. And I don't see that trend improving a whole lot this year. Not when you have to replace most of the defense, plus the school's all-time leading rusher. Yeah, I've got Vanderbilt picked dead last in the SEC East. That's my look at the Commodores. See you next time.